on the flood situation in Marala. Welcome to the program. Now, the CORD retreat enters its most crucial session this afternoon, where members in attendance are supposed to agree on who will be stepping down for former Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka. The members are also going to finalize on their list of key committee membership in the Parliament. Now, KTN's Noah Otieno is in Naivasha now and joins us live via phone with the very latest in Naivasha. Good afternoon, Noah.
Good afternoon, Bonnie.
What do we know from the talks happening currently in Naivasha?
Well, the retreat has reached a very interesting stage right now. According to my sources who've been in the meetings and who've also been in the various small groups. Right now, actually, they have taken a break, but they have broken into small groups where people are trying to, discuss, albeit in some cases, on whom exactly can be prevailed upon to step down for former Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka to make it back to Parliament. I'm told that the man I thought would be willing to step down, a man who is a member of Parliament from Central, has very explosive reaction, saying that he has an occasion to elected him and he is pretty much unwilling to betray that by stepping down. So these people, the board have formed a 6-member committee that will work on the issues to try to find another person who might be willing to step down for Kalonzo Musyoka to find a way into the National Assembly. But as a last resort, I'm told that the Machakos Senator Johnson Mudama has expressed willingness that if all else fails, then he's willing to step down as a senator from Machakos to trigger by-election that will bring Kalonzo Musyoka into the Senate.
Right, and Noah, we do understand the difficulty of getting a member of parliament to step down for Kalonzo Musyoka. Do we have any other names being fronted for that position in the event we don't have someone stepping down?
It depends so much on the willingness, the goodwill of the members of parliament themselves. You cannot force anyone, you cannot fire anyone, however powerful you are in the party or in the coalition itself. So if they don't find anyone, I think Kalonzo will have to stay out in the cold. That is the story. But other issues, of course, that have come up here at the retreat, other issues they had intended to deal with were, for example, which names to put forward as the minority leader in the National Assembly, now that the CORD Alliance is the minority in Parliament. And I'm told that a name featuring very prominently here is that of Game Member of Parliament, Jacoyo Midiwo, as a possible minority leader, with a deputy who is a lady actually called Joyce Day from Taita Taveta. So these are the possible names that we might see in terms of minority leader and the deputy. But as for the chief whips of the minority side, these names are not yet agreed upon. There are still caucuses going on here. There's still negotiating going on here. And these are names that will be agreed upon in the next 2 hours, Bonnie.
Finally, Noah, do we know what is on the priority list of CORD once they get to the House?
Of course, capturing the leadership of the watchdog committees like the Parliamentary Accounts Committee, PAC. Remember, this is traditionally an opposition committee. It's usually led by somebody from the opposition side. And so they are trying to find ways of ensuring that they capture these committees and have very powerful people heading them. I've already been told that those angling for such committees like the Parliamentary Accounts Committee could possibly be the Budalangi Member of Parliament, Ababu Namwamba. They're also eyeing, of course, the Public Investments Committee, and there are various names that are coming up here. A very interesting development at the CORD retreat is that there has been some kind of push by the younger politicians here to be given, to be raised to these positions, because they're saying the old guard have been around for so long and they should not be taking all the committee membership, they should not be making all the decisions in the coalition and in the individual parties. So there has to be, there's a push by the younger generation of politicians here to also be put in these prominent committee memberships here at the retreat. These are decisions that they're going to have to make before the end of the day. One other thing that I must say, Bonnie, is that already my sources have confirmed, various sources have confirmed to me that the members of the various parties in this CORD coalition have agreed that their various secretariats did not work hard enough for them in the election, and therefore, at least for the ODM side of the CORD alliance, we are going to see a total reorganization of the ODM secretariat, possibly to be recreated afresh. Everybody who is there now may have to go home, and the secretariat may have to be formed afresh.
All right, now we have to leave it there. Many thanks for bringing us to speed with what is happening. We do know that the CORD team is currently retreating in Naivasha to form a strategy ahead of the opening of Parliament this coming week. Edith?
And as CORD holds a retreat in Naivasha, President Uhuru Kenyatta is this afternoon set to host Jubilee Coalition senators and members of parliament for what is to be a lunch at State House in Nairobi. The State House meeting comes just hours before Uhuru gives his inaugural speech to Parliament tomorrow afternoon. The President and his Deputy William Ruto are expected to use the lunch meeting to lobby the newly elected leaders to support the government's agenda, as well as discuss how they will conduct legislative business in the Senate and National Assembly. The chance to dine with the President will also be used as a forum to fine-tune and also approve the Jubilee Coalition's choice for the leadership of crucial parliamentary committees. And speaking of newly elected leaders, it's possible that you may not even know his or her name yet, but it's possible that your newly elected member of parliament could be demanding higher pay. The Salaries and Remuneration Commission, which is a constitutional office, advises government on remuneration of public officers. Now, this body advised that your MP get 500,000 shillings a month. A section of legislators, however, argue that this is simply not enough. They would like the figure revised to at least 850,000 shillings, which was enjoyed previously by the previous parliament. Their argument is pegged on the fact that they no longer control CDF funds, and they're saying that it's going to make it more difficult for them to financially serve their constituents. The SRC, led by Sarah Serem, has however said these demands are unsustainable. In a short while, our reporter Asha Mulu will put these figures into perspective, just so you can know how much has been going into these public servants' wage bill. The MPs not happy with this have threatened to disband the SRC, something that would need a referendum to realize. Their other option is to sack the team making these recommendations. This would also be a tall order. The members would need to have been involved in gross misconduct, among other things, for them to be laid off. Your MP probably knows this, and so they are now planning to remove themselves from the list of state officers who fall under the SRC. Now, what this would do is it would mean that the SRC can no longer recommend salaries for the MPs. Let's also remind you that county representatives have also demanded better pay, and it's what can best be described as a hot button issue, something that is causing and stirring controversy. A lot of people on social media reacting sharply to this, and so Asha Mwilu is going to be joining us in just a short while to put this into perspective. And I suppose the first question is, Sarah Serem is saying that it's not sustainable for us to have such a huge wage bill. What are we currently spending just on salaries of public servants, Asha?
Well, thanks, Edith. When we talk about public servants and their salaries, what comes into mind is the GDP, and more specifically, the public wage bill. At the moment, Treasury already released reports indicating that the current public sector wage bill is estimated at 12%. This is an increase from 9% in 2011. What does this mean, Edith? This means that we're spending a lot more on salaries for public officers, not just members of parliament. The public sector wage bill over the last 3 years has been increasing at an average of 13%. But look at this, Edith. In the year 2012-2013, the public sector wage bill went up by 30%. Treasury attributed this to the hefty wage awards that were given to teachers, to doctors, to lecturers, and even the police. We saw the industrial actions and strikes that dominated 2011, prompting the government to award all these public officers with hefty salaries. And so the Kenya's public sector wage bill has been ballooning and will climb further with now the devolved system of government that now has more state officers in play, more state officers having to be paid by the government. And also the wage bill is expected to triple once the government starts paying the new state officers. We know that we had around 222 MPs and paid around 850,000 shillings per month, and this was untaxed. And so when the SRC reduced their salaries to about $500,000, it was considering that now we have 349 members of parliament, that is in the National Assembly. We still have senators, 47 of them in the upper chamber. We still have governors, we still have county representatives, and so the state officers are more, meaning we are paying more public officers. And the SRC, while reducing these salaries, said that the reduced salary for the president himself, the deputy president, and now the MPs would save the country about 500 million shillings. So, Edith, when you crunch the numbers, it's not feasible for MPs now to start talking about $1 million shillings a month.
Okay. Asha, we are obviously talking about an increased wage bill, a bloated wage bill vis-a-vis the GDP, and the MPs are hearing none of it. They're threatening now to disband the SRC, and they're also saying that they're going to sack the members of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. How viable is this?
Well, we have been talking to legal practitioners, of course, just to hear what the Constitution says about these two options that the MPs say they're threatening the SRC with, and first and foremost, to just remove a commissioner from a constitutional office. According to Chapter 15 of the Constitution, it's a vigorous activity. For once, you have to make sure that this commissioner or the holder of an independent office is either one, is in serious violation of the Constitution or any other law, including Chapter 6 of the Constitution, of gross misconduct, probably physically or mentally incapacitated, incompetency, or bankruptcy. When it comes to disbanding the SRC, in its totality, Edith, Chapter 16 of the Constitution protects the independent offices and the constitutional commissions that were put in place under the new Constitution, and it would require a referendum to amend the Constitution in relation to these commissions or independent offices. So it's really a long shot, Edith, for these two options.
Okay, Asha, before I let you go, the MPs, it's important to get their side of this story. They're saying that one of the reasons they're demanding a higher pay is because they no longer have control to the CDF. Just make the connection for us. What does the CDF fund have to do with their salary?
Well, you know, Edith, in the previous dispensation, we knew about the role of MPs. The Member of Parliament was a very important person with various tasks. Of course, CDF coming into play, that they had to control this fund. They also had to represent their constituents in the National Assembly. The Member of Parliament had a broad spectrum of roles to play. But now, under the new dispensation, Edith, there are a number of state officers that have come into play, probably minimizing this spectrum, the roles that now an MP had to play. For instance, we have the governor, we have a women representatives, we have a senator. What is the role of the MP now? We know clearly that the MP ideally is about legislation in the National Assembly and representation of the constituents. So for MPs to probably say that they're going to be paying hospital bills, school fees, and funeral expenses for their constituents, having that as the explanation of why they want a salary review, most experts have said is an absurd explanation, considering the role that they're supposed to play under the new dispensation. Edith.
All right, thank you very much, Asha Mulu. She's our senior reporter coming to us from the newsroom. She's been following that story. A hot button issue indeed, but the figures she's giving us very grim, saying that the public wage bill has gone up by 30% in the year 2012 to 2013. I mean, that's really ridiculous, especially considering the IMF has already said to Kenyans, this is just unsustainable. We can't keep lending you money and spending a whole bunch of it on recurrent expenditure.
Right, and I think what is sad is that this seems to be a trend that Kenyans are comfortable with. If you look at the budget, for example, 70% goes to recurrent expenditures. We're talking about salaries, we're talking about state functions. 30% goes into development projects, the roads and whatnot. So really, if we're talking about MPs getting more money, then we could be pushing the lion's share to up to 80–90% of that into current expenditure.
Well, it will be curious to see if President Uhuru does indeed mention that in his inaugural speech tomorrow when the MPs finally come together. But we have another issue which has been making headlines in the past few days, and it affects all of us. And we're talking about the heavy rains in the country. And today they continue to cause death and destruction of property, and even even paralyzed transport in several parts of the country.
Now, transport along Iten Kapsoa Road in Uasin Gishu County has been paralyzed after a bridge on the busy road collapsed. And in Samburu, Maralal Rumuruti Road has also been cut off. KTN's Angel Katusia has more on this.
It is the situation in several roads across the country. Truck drivers, public service vehicles, and even personal cars stranded on the roads. Heavy rains being experienced in the country have cut off major roads and even swept away bridges, paralyzing transport in several regions. In Uasin Gishu, a bridge connecting Iten and Kapsoa Ward collapsed, leaving dozens of road users stranded. Other sections of the busy road have also been destroyed by heavy rains in the region, paralyzing transport in several sections of the road. In Maralal in Samburu County, the situation is no different. Trucks ferrying foodstuff to Baragoi area had their journey cut short after a section of the road was swept away by raging waters. Truck drivers say they have been stranded for 8 days and most of the commodities they were transporting have been spoiled.
Kuanzia Rumuruti kwenda Maralal tulikuwa tunatumia 5 hours, sasa inabidi kutumia 2 days. Unakwama kwa barabara, unakuta gari zingine zimekwama mbele yako.
For the time being, we want to appeal for an emergency intervention, maybe to drain some of this water, to maram some of the collapsed areas.
The floods being experienced in different parts of the country, according to the government, have so far claimed 36 lives. In Kapsangui in Uasin Gishu County, 2 cars were electrocuted after a heavy downpour brought down 3 electric poles. The heavy rains accompanied by strong winds brought down the active power lines, causing massive blackout in the area for 2 days.
Nimepoteza ng'ombe ambaye nilikuwa namtegemea. Ng'ombe mzuri, ng'ombe ambaye alikuwa ananipatia maziwa mingi kwa wale wengine. Huyu ng'ombe huwa ananipatia maziwa karibu lita 7 asubuhi na lita 3 jioni.
According to the Kenya Red Cross Society, over 100,000 households have been displaced. The Meteorological Department has warned that several parts of the country will continue to receive above normal rains and urged those living in vulnerable regions to move to safer grounds. Angel Katusia, KTN, live at 1.
Right, moving on, Google Kenya has reportedly been hacked. Now, the search engine was this morning inaccessible, with these web details indicating that the hacker by the name TigerMate had taken over the site, furthermore giving a hashtag Bangladesh hacker. Now, the hackers went ahead with a sort of mocking demeanor, sending greetings from different headline handles written at the bottom of the page. Now, the hacked page also has a song playing in the background with a Mediterranean tune. KTN has since contacted Google Kenya ahead officials, and they have since denied these claims, saying that it could be a fault from the internet service providers. However, even after changing our ISP to Orange, JTL and Access Kenya, we still could not gain access to the site. Our investigation have also shown that internet users across the country have not been able to use the site. Right, Edith?
Right. You know, moments after KTN raised the red flag on that particular issue, Google did indeed respond. And so we're asking, what exactly is hacking? And so we have the details for you. In the computer security context, hacking is, or rather a hacker, is someone who seeks and exploits weaknesses in a computer system or a computer network. It can also be described as a practice of modifying the features of a system in order to accomplish a goal outside of the creator's original purpose. Hackers may be motivated by a multitude of reasons such as profit, protest, or even challenge. There are different types of hackers. It's important to know there's the white hat hacker who breaks security for no malicious reason, perhaps to test their own security system. Then there's the black hat hacker who violates computer security for malice or for personal gain. They break into secure networks to destroy data or to make the network unusable for those who are authorized to use the network. And then there's a gray hat hacker, which is a combination of a black hat and a white hat hacker. The gray hat hacker may surf the internet and hack into a computer system for the sole purpose of notifying the administrator Kenya that their system has been hacked. Elite hackers are the most skilled in either negative or positive hackings. And it's obviously a very technical conversation, one that I don't understand very well. But Boni Tunya does have someone on the other side via Skype. His name is Dwayne Githinji. He's a director of he's a director of a particular company known as Good Info Limited, and he has more details of this. Tunya.
Right, many thanks, Edith. And of course, we are joined by Dwayne Githinji, who's the MD of Good Info. Dwayne understands a lot of hacking, a lot of the stuff that Edith was talking about. But first question, Dwayne, how concerned should we be about this hacking incident for Google Kenya? Right. Question to Dwayne is that how concerned should we be about this hacking incident at Google Kenya? Right, we seem to be having a challenge with the sound. I hope it hasn't been hacked, but we'll be able to get Dwayne as and when we get our sound back up. Right, to other stories now, and startling statistics from the traffic department indicate that we have lost 915 people through road traffic accidents since the year started. Other shocking figures further show that a total of 3,131 people have been injured on road accidents. Now, the question begging answers is why this upward trend, even after adopting the fairly new stringent traffic rules. Betty Chalo tells us more.
The staggering number of deaths due to road accidents since the year started raises serious questions about implementation of traffic laws. Last year, the stringent and punitive laws were greeted with mixed feelings from different sections of the society. On one hand, the general public and the traffic department hailed the laws, saying they would reduce the loss of life on the roads. On the other hand, the public service vehicles owners and operators lamented that the fines were too hefty and should not be adopted. However, months down the line after the adoption of the laws, the same matatus have been at the center of numerous horrific accidents that have left many dead and scores injured. Just 3 days ago, 11 people died in one of the most appalling accidents yet. In this particular case, the driver of the matatu was trying to overtake and ended up ramming into an oncoming truck, killing 11 people. Both drivers died on the spot.
Public service operators. This is the group which we are still tackling. We are still having a problem with them. We know their characteristic. If I am told to describe a public service operator, the first thing is a person who like to disobey traffic rules.
Kimaru laments that whenever the drivers are arrested and fined for misconduct on the road, the matatu owners pay for their fines immediately. Therefore, the drivers never feel the pinch.
When their drivers are caught and they are taken to court, they should not pay fine for them. They should leave them to carry their own cross, they carry their own weight.
However, according to the commandant, it's not always the drivers who are at fault. The public is also to be blamed. Take for instance, in February this year, 35 people died in Mwingi, while 50 others were injured when the bus they were traveling in rolled several times. Investigations into this accident showed that the bus was overloaded, with some passengers having to stand. Since the year started, close to 1,000 people have lost their lives through road carnage. This is double the number in 2012 within the same period of January to April. A further 3,131 have been critically injured, with most being left physically handicapped. Question is, are the traffic laws effective? For KTN, I'm Betty Chalo.
Right, very sad figures coming from Betty And to more news, the Director of Public Prosecution, Keriako Tobiko, has ordered the Criminal Investigations Department to reopen a probe into the threatening letter sent to Chief Justice William Mutunga before the general elections. As police launch the investigations, the DPP has also ordered a boost in security for the CJ and all judges. But the police had originally dismissed the matter for lack of evidence. The letter was allegedly sent by members of Mungiki threatening the Chief Justice to ensure that President Uhuru Kenyatta is not barred from contesting in the March general election. Right, we're just about to take a commercial break, Edith, but looking at that hacking story, I feel there's cause to worry because of all the transactions that we do online and all that information exchange that currently happens.
Well, I really wish we could get access to Dwayne because he has the information to all this and why online security is so important to each and every one of us.
And of course, I've also gotten a couple of feedback coming from our viewers. We'll be able to sample them later on in this part of the show. But remember, all the stories that you see here, you can converse about them on our social media handle, that is at KTN Kenya or at KTN News Desk. But also, remember, for any story that you miss here, you can get it on our website. www.standardmedia.co.ke. I'm actually just looking at the site right now. There's some pretty interesting stories, not to mention some videos. So if you want to know what I'm talking about, you need to get on the site. Let's go on a short commercial break. When we come back, well, when we come back, French ministers have been asked to declare their wealth.